Hello, welcome to another episode of Moms on a Mission. I am your host, Julie Hatch. So glad that you are with me and my friend Stefanie today, my guest, because it's going to be a great show. And I'm so excited to have her here. I'll introduce her. Stefanie is a certified Rapid Transformational Therapist, specializing working with parents to become the best version of themselves in order to establish and maintain an authentic and loving relationship with their child. She brings together psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, neurolinguistic programming, and neuroscience in one hypnotherapy session to enable deep transformations for her clients. And you know, the fact that you are wanting to just bring authentic and loving relationships to every parent and their child is that is beautiful. That's what the world needs more of. So welcome, Stefanie. I'm glad to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Well, let's get right into it because I'm really interested, first of all, of the background that you have, but especially about what RTT for short, or Rapid Transitional Therapy. So you work with parents, and I think you work with kids with this, but certainly with parents. Can you give an overview of what RTT is and how it works?
Sure. Well, you already described it quite well, but for someone who is not into that therapy bubble, it might seem a bit too abstract of what this really is. So what I do in the work with parents is we are going to work on the triggers. So we all know as parents, we have certain triggers that are just throwing us completely off the bus. Mm-hmm. And we can have a great day, but for some reason, our toddler is not eating well. You prepared food, and usually it's her most favorite meal, and she's not eating. Mm-hmm. And that can be the trigger to throw the whole dinner plan on the floor. But what is it that is really triggering you? Your toddler is just having a very child appropriate behavior. But how we react as parents, there's something more and something deeper to that. And this is what I work with, to figure out what is the root cause of certain behaviors, because often they block us from really becoming who we want to be. We feel we are autopilot. We cannot really control how we react and behave. Mm-hmm. And we want this differently. And in an RTT session, we go back to the root cause of where and when we developed a certain belief. And that is often deeply rooted in our own childhood, how we have experienced our childhood, what happened to us, and what the meaning that we attached to what happened to us. Mm-hmm. And this is quite liberating when my clients see under hypnosis, whoa, this is the reason why that triggers me so much. It's something that you, in normal life, you don't think about because you don't have access to the subconscious mind. That's why it works so well with hypnosis, because we completely bypass the conscious mind, that rational thinking brain that is always on and trying to rationalize things, and go straight to the subconscious mind where all the information is stored about our childhood.
That's great. I like the way that you said that we're on autopilot, which is so true. We're often unconsciously just going through the day, surviving sometimes, and certainly on autopilot. And so my business is Moms on a Mission, but the second part of this, consciously connecting with our kids. And so I talk about consciously being present and being with your kids, but you take it even a bit further and deeper, and probably, I don't know whether it's easier or a stronger connection with your child or whatever, but you get down into where subconsciously connecting with your kid maybe, or subconsciously connecting with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So it all starts also by connecting with ourselves as a person, so that we can be the best mom or dad we want to be. Without that, we cannot be in control over our reactions and our behaviors. So that's really something that works quite well also in that RTT session.
Yeah.
So we always make that connection.
Yeah. I had said, or I didn't know whether you also work with, do you do RTT with kids, or is it only with parents? You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
It works so well with kids. They're amazing. Their brain is just full of imagination. They are so suggestible, which is a great thing for RTT.
Yeah.
And we have phenomenal results with them, with bedwetting, anxiety. I mean, all of this COVID thing, back and forth of school.
Yeah.
They don't know what's happening. There's just so much happening in their life that they cannot control. But to let go of that worry and to just be and trust, like it really works well. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, I believe that kids have, because they haven't lived a full life or even part of a life or even a little bit of a life, they don't have all those layers of the onion that you have to sort of uncover to get to what's down underneath. They have, they wear their hearts on their sleeves. I just think that their psyche, everything is closer to the surface and easier to work with and access, I think.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this rapid transformation work? I bet you there's a story behind it.
There is a very personal story that I'm happy to share with you.
Oh, good.
So when I became a mom 4 years ago, when my first son was born, Philippe, I had that brutal awakening that there's something more to my life than what I was consciously aware of until then. And I just had a really hard time in the first half a year, I think. I'm an expat mom. I live without social support. So I have no parents to help or grandparents in that sense. And everything was just on me and my husband. And we had, like any parent, we just had to figure out how we do this whole parenting thing. And in addition, I just had all that pain inside. And I realized I cannot create or establish that deep connection with my son if I'm not ready. I had all those worries, anxiety, looping thoughts. Then when the thoughts got really, really dark, I reached out for help and I did a RTT on myself. I had an excellent therapist, and within one session, and I still cannot believe how phenomenal that went, I just cleared all that old baggage. Like it was like a stone in my stomach that I carried with me. I didn't even know I had. And because of becoming so aware of what my story was, coming from the subconscious to my conscious mind, I could work on it. I could start my healing journey. Before that, I couldn't even do it because I was just so closed. I was not aware of it.
Yeah.
And that hooked me completely, because I realized myself how incredibly effective it is and helpful.
Yeah. And certainly we all have our stories. Some are worse than others, or we all have our stories though.
Yeah.
So I imagine that probably anybody and everybody could benefit from this. Did you become aware of what RTT was doing for you during the session, or did you wake up from your hypnosis and things look different, or how does it work? What's the experience like?
So you feel very relaxed. You sit or you lay, and it's not a very unfamiliar feeling, actually. So I think we all feel that at some point. We are just very relaxed. You're with your eyes closed, and you're completely in control over what's happening. Whatever you say is like your choice. I have clients, for example, who don't want to disclose certain information because of their choice, and that's so fine, as long as they experience and they remember and they feel it. And so you just feel what you felt back then in a certain memory when you develop the belief that, for example, you were not good enough, or that you think you cannot do certain things. And that feels a bit frightening at first, but you also realize that this is just a memory. It cannot really affect you. It's really just a memory. And the moment that the therapist guides you out of that memory, it's gone. So it leaves your body and you're completely blank and ready for the next memory. So we visit 3 memories usually that are the root cause of the problem that my clients have.
Uh-huh.
And yes, I was completely aware of what's happening. I had that awakening and that light bulb moment in the session where I really thought, wow, I cannot even remember this when I was 2 years old. Are you serious? And you just sit there and you think, okay, great, let's get rid of this. I don't need this anymore. It's really
Wow.
empowering.
So do you have to go into a session knowing what memories you're wanting to deal with? Or it sounds like you just had one come up that you didn't even know was there. So you never know
Yeah,
what's gonna,
yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm
So
just
I
so
guess
excited about it.
do people go in trying to address a root cause, I guess, for the way that they're behaving as a parent? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's different than regular talk therapy, where you know what you want to talk about. So you know what happened to you, you know that you would like to resolve it, you would like to look at it from different perspectives, which is very valid and very helpful for many people. But in RTT, what we do it a little bit the other way around. People come with a certain problem to me, and I don't need to know what happens in their life.
Mhm.
Like, we have a very short intake, just half an hour, where they explain me a little bit of what are the symptoms, the triggers, their habits, how they grew up. And the most important questions that I ask is, how would your life look like if you don't have that problem?
Mm.
And then we go back to the memories that have all to do with the problem they have now.
Mhm.
And this is often buried in the subconscious mind. And even when we visit scenes that clients would remember consciously,
Mhm.
it is not really the memory, it's more the feeling that is attached to it. That is
Mhm.
what we forget when we grow up. We don't remember how we felt, how small and insignificant we felt, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. And that's really the root. That's really the feeling is what's really important, not the facts of what may or may not have happened. Everybody has their own story and their own truth or not truth, but how you feel is what counts. So can you talk about, and maybe you've just touched on this, a little bit of the rules of the mind? I think you've got some, maybe 3 rules of the mind. Well, rules of the mind.
Yes, I would like to do, for the first one, I would like to do a little exercise to show you
Great.
how the rule of the mind can be implemented or works, how the mind works.
Yep.
So I'd like you to close your eyes. And I would like you to imagine that you are holding a large, bright yellow lemon. And you can feel the firm and waxy fruit in your hand. Now I would like you to put that lemon on a cutting board and you cut it in half. And you pick up 1/2 of that freshly sliced, very ripe lemon. And you can smell the aroma of that lemon, and it's all around you. It's filling your nostrils with this amazing scent. And you can feel also the wariness of the lemon skin. And I would like you to imagine that you gently squeeze that lemon and you feel the lemon juice running through your fingers. And you breathe in that smell. And now I want you to lift up that half of the lemon to your mouth and you take a bite. And you feel those citrus juices fall onto your tongue, and you feel the fleshy lemon, really, and you shudder as the flavors explode in your mouth.
Mm.
You can open your eyes, and I would like you to tell me what happened in your body. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So that's really heavy visualization, which is powerful in itself.
And it really shows you like the connection between the mind and the body, and that every thought has a physical reaction. And I love this exercise because it shows the power of our minds. It's just an imagination. It's not even real. But I mean, you cannot help than to salivate.
Right.
And I believe that this is really powerful to show that when we tell ourselves positive things, it has a positive impact on our physical reaction, on our body. When we tell ourselves negative things, like I think every mom can relate, or every parent can relate, all those clothes on the floor, all those toys around, and you walk around the house and you say, this is driving me mad, and those toys are killing me. Like, your mind pictures like, this is a real threat.
Mm.
Killing me? Come on, what's happening here? And your heartbeat goes up, you start sweating, you enter in this cycle, and it's really difficult to get out because your mind is thinking that this is really a real threat. Instead, when you could say, I really don't feel comfortable in a house with a lot of toys on the floor because I step on them and they hurt me. Guys, can you please pick them up? Your body will react differently because your mind has different pictures. And
it's a powerful thing, the mind is. And we're only just, I think that we, society, medicine, whatever, is just beginning to tap the tip of what the power that the mind has. But this is a great example of it, what you just were talking about with the lemon and the toys all over the floor, stepping on all those Legos and bare feet. And okay, and then you have something about the familiar and the unfamiliar.
The mind loves what is familiar and it rejects what is unfamiliar.
Okay.
And that is why for us as adults, it's sometimes so difficult to establish new positive beliefs and behaviors because we fall back into that old pattern that we are just used to. But we also, I think everyone once had that in their life. I'm not going to talk like my mom. I will never be like my mom. And then you have kids and you say exactly the same things and you can hear her and you just wonder, where did that come from? It comes from a place of familiar. And we break that familiar cycle in RTT because we work. So after the 2-hour session, every client receives a personalized audio recording where we install new supporting beliefs. And this just needs repetition. Just like children, they love to read the same bedtime story every single evening. And when you can already read it with your eyes closed, they are still interested about it because their mind is learning. Their mind knows exactly what is good for them. And again, please, mommy, I need to hear this again. And this is what we need to do. When we want to change behavior patterns or belief system, we just need to repeat them so they become familiar. And at first, this is a bit difficult for the mind. The mind goes like, what's happening here? No, I'm not used to this. I cannot handle this. A lot of my clients feel very confused in the first week because all of a sudden they hear every day, you're lovable, you are enough, you are beautiful, you are smart. They're not used to hear that. Nobody talks like that on a regular basis about themselves.
Right, for sure.
But we should, because it really works. And then it becomes familiar and whoop, that, you have this new belief system and it works.
And I think that, and I don't know, because I don't do what you do, but I do think that the same thing with feeling. You can say, I love myself. And they're like, yeah, okay. But you have to really believe it and feel it. I did an exercise once with somebody who was helping me with writing a book. And he said, write yourself a love letter. And I didn't know how to write myself a love letter. I pictured a letter that I'd be writing to my kids, why I love them, how I love them, because I certainly love them. And I would say more than I love myself. And then he would say, read it to yourself in the mirror. And it was really powerful. Then I could say, wow, again, the words that I used were pertinent because I was talking to my kids, but that helped make me feel it. And that really made a difference, reading it to myself and with feeling. So
it's beautiful.
But the feeling is good. And do you have anything more to say about how we are all? That's a big generalization. But I think one of my points is that kids are brought up, and it's not, obviously it's inadvertent. We don't mean to make our kids feel like they don't count or that they're not lovable or all of those terrible things, but somehow that all happens. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about that? Or it's a biggie.
I know. And I just want to say that don't feel discouraged. Those things that happen on a regular basis, like all the time, they stay with the kid. Then they really damage the self-esteem. But if you have difficult day because there's just so many things happening, or you're not feeling so well and you are not the most kind and lovable parent to your kid. That's not the situation when your child will feel mommy doesn't love me, and that means because I'm not lovable. Yeah, so I think, and that's why authenticity is so important in the work I do, to achieve authenticity, because then you can say, look, mommy is not feeling so well today, and that is not because of you. I still love you, but mommy just needs a moment. And then you snuggle up with your kid and you take those 5 minutes that you need to calm down, snuggled up in the couch while he's watching cartoons. That will not hurt him.
Right. Very good point. They're very resilient.
Yeah, one thing I like to tell clients as a reminder, for every adverse or not so positive situation you experience with your child, make it up with 5 positive ones.
Oh, okay.
And they will feel well.
Yeah, make it up with 5. And I was gonna say, oh, that should be plenty, but no, because the adverse sticks a lot more than the positive things. They need more positive to balance one. That makes sense. That's I like that ratio. So the impact of social pressure on parenthood, can you speak to that? What the social pressures that we feel as parents, and what it's doing to us as parents and our kids and our families?
Yeah, I think that it is very difficult for, parenting is something that we are not really prepared for. That is a whole new journey that we didn't even know that exists before you have children. You cannot even imagine. That's what everyone says. Oh, wait until you have children, your life will change. But you don't know.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you should do all the things perfectly well. You need to cook homemade meals. Don't let them watch too much TV. Watch how you talk to them. Then you need to take time for yourself. Don't neglect your relationship. Then you should also work. There's just so much that we should do in addition to becoming a chef, being a chauffeur, being a football coach, being a psychologist. All of a sudden you need to teach math at home, and you need to do all these things perfectly well. I think we just need to distance ourselves consciously and strongly from those images, how we should be. The only thing how you should be is to be true to yourself and aware. And from there you go every single day. And if there is a pizza for dinner the second time this week, that's fine, because dinner will be so much more relaxed for the whole family than when you have prepared super healthy food and you're stressed out and you cannot connect with your kids on at the table.
Yeah.
So what do you want? You need just to choose. You cannot do everything. Nobody can, and nobody does. That mom that seems to have it all together, she doesn't. Nobody does. We just see certain sides because this is what people choose to show. And that's okay, because they just try to protect themselves. But we don't need to believe that.
Right. Yep. Yes, I am a parenting coach, and I call myself a parenting coach. And I'll be the first to say I am no mother of the year at all. And authenticity is a good start to being all that you can be for your kids. Would you say that the hypnosis and RTT helps you find your authenticity?
Yeah, it does so much. Yeah, there is this direct line to your intuition and to your inner guide that you can reach through hypnosis, because you're not constantly distracted by your thinking brain. And we lose, unfortunately, when we grow up, we lose that inner guidance often, because we grow up thinking we need to be a certain way. As a girl, you need to behave and be sweet, and as a boy, you need to be liking football and like sports and be harsh. But there's really no such thing. Now we know, fortunately, with gender neutral parenting approaches, that there's no such thing as how someone should be. But
Right.
I think we are all still very biased from our own upbringing, that we cannot really avoid that with our children.
Yeah, I think we are. And I think the gender neutral is, I think it's relatively new. Again, I'm older than you by a bit. But I think that the gender neutral thing is a wonderful thing, but I think that it's new and it's going to take a while, at least here in the United States, or at least in my town, to really take hold and make a difference. But that's absolutely right. So you said that you do RTT for kids. It helps with anxiety. Did you say bullying, or I read that somewhere? Yeah. Okay. And all the stresses that they're dealing with COVID, and what have you, so tell me some examples of how you've used it and seen it help with kids.
So self-confidence is a big one, but also overweight is a big one, which also works very well for adults. But we see that for emotional eating works very well with children, that they just start to find other ways of filling their love tank. Doesn't need to be with food. But also it strengthens their self-esteem on the journey of losing weight and becoming fitter and healthier. And then it's for symptoms really just as bedwetting, for example, or fear of dogs or fear of spiders. Lots of fear issues work really well.
Wow.
I had a client who was afraid of spiders, and now he's catching them in the house for his mom.
Wow.
And that works just, it works really like a charm with their favorite cartoons. This is how we do it. So Captain America and all those superheroes, they just talk to their subconscious mind and cheer them up, become really their inner cheerleader.
Yeah.
And
that's great. So you're really getting to them before they become adults and then have to uncover all of this stuff, which is why the adults come to you.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to get to the kids when they're young and fresh.
Yeah.
This is really cool. This is really cool stuff. I think that so you must do sessions virtually online. How many sessions does a client usually require or request or usually have?
So all that journey is really a very personal one, which is difficult to say then how many sessions one needs. But if I have a client who has, for example, fear of driving and self-esteem issues at work, for example, I cannot speak up to my boss, or I'm worried that I say the wrong things. These are two different things, they seem. And we schedule 2 calls or 2 sessions, and I do them virtually. Yes. And there is also an element of, while you are doing that therapy, so I don't do a one-off session. This is a whole month journey with me. So I'm available for follow-up calls and to give them tools outside of the RTT session to deal with their issues and to heal. And sometimes we see that even though a client came for one problem, that just broke other problems free or other issues free. And then we need to work on those layers. And if a client comes for weight loss, then I don't schedule less than 3 sessions, because this is very often a very complex problem. Because being just living in society where overweight is very stigmatized. So you might feel self-esteem issues, then you would like to work on healthy eating habits, and you would like to work on healing your emotional trauma from why you are overweight in the first place, for example. So it really depends.
Okay. So you'll treat anybody for anything, that kind of sounds like. It's because it's all has to do with right up here, right?
Yeah. And I think also what we need to rethink therapy. A lot of people think, oh, I don't need to apply for therapy, or I don't need to start therapy because I'm not sick. These are just the very, very sick ones that cannot get out of bed anymore. But we just need to rethink well-being. And I really help just to feel well with yourself. And That's why I love so much to work with parents, because this is a lifetime job. You will never resign anymore for that. So you better feel well with what you're doing, because you do it 24/7.
Yep. Good point. Wow. I think that this sounds really, really like exciting, fun work. Both recipient, and I think it'd be kind of fun to learn how to do, but obviously I need another lifetime to do all that I want to do. This is really cool. So I just want to let people know before I forget that you can find Stefanie. Her website is Stefanie. Well, no, we're going to start with the Facebook, because I think that's where she's most active. On Facebook, she's on Hypno-Stefanie, and it's Stefanie. Hypno-Stefanie, and that's her Facebook page. She also has a website, Stefanie Fernandes, which is FERNANDES.com. But she has parenting tips on her Facebook page. She has testimonials, I guess, experiences from people that she's worked with. And I'm definitely going to go on and look into it, because obviously you can help all kinds of people with all kinds of things. But for the point of this show is that it helps parents with largely past experiences, why they are reacting the way they are, why they are choosing to parent the way they are. Even if it's a great way to parent, we all get triggered. We all have things that we would like to do differently or better. And your example of, oh, I sound like my mother. I have said that so many times, and it's true. So we need to get rid of the familiar and bring in the unfamiliar, more positive, more healthy ways of relating with our kids. I guess that's sort of what I have heard here. And kids benefit also. But I think that if we start, well, not if we start, but I think that when parents do it, that lays a good groundwork for instilling more positive things for our kids, their self-esteem, and we feel better about ourselves as parents when we're doing what we can to their best benefit. This was good. I'm kind of out of questions, I think. I'm just I'm processing a lot of this in my head, which is really fun. Do you have anything else that you would like to add or let the listeners know about, or anything left to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just one thing. Don't despair. There is hope and there is light. Everyone says it gets better when they get older, but you can, in the meantime, also help yourself to heal yourself.
Yeah, wonderful. Great words. So this is Stefanie Fernandes. You can find her on Facebook for Facebook Hypno-Stefanie. Right, Stefanie? Am I saying that right? I want to make sure that
that's perfect.
People can find you, and they can get a hold of you probably and ask questions and seek out, even if you think that you don't need help. A lot of us say, oh no, I can handle it. I'm fine. But really, I'm sure we can all benefit from this. It'll make life easier and fuller for us all. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up this session with Stefanie Fernandes. Thank you so much for being here, Stefanie. And for you listeners, if you liked this episode, give it a like, share it with others. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next week.